Hello, welcome to the Syvantis Fast Class. I'm Emily, a marketing consultant here at Syvantis. Today, we're here to explore the real-time marketing area within Dynamics 365 Marketing, which is designed to facilitate customer engagement in those moments that matter most across all the touch points and channels that your customers care about. Real-time marketing emphasizes the who, what, and when of engaging with your customers, with some shifts that make it distinct from standard outbound marketing. While the who, the target audience segment, remains, how you arrive at your segment in real-time marketing is based on an easy-to-use logic builder, requiring no special knowledge of complex data structures or logical operators. The what is the content and form of your communication. In outbound, that was often an email. In real time, we add things like push notifications and text messages. And finally, the when can remain planned, set times like in Dynamics outbound, or it can be based on other triggers the customer hits that help us engage with customers exactly when it is most helpful and impactful to them. These differences will become a little more apparent as we peruse real-time marketing, so let's get into it. And as always, drop your questions in the chat and we'll be happy to address them. Once we're logged into Dynamics 365 Marketing, we'll want to expand the menu in the bottom left corner here and select real-time marketing. We're there right now. We'll go over real-time marketing in two parts. So in this fast class, we're going to cover engagement and audience here and here. We've got our dashboard here under Get Started, followed by journeys, analytics, and triggers. The journey builder works like the one in outbound marketing, so there won't be too steep of a learning curve here. When you first enter this space, you'll see your journeys displayed in this list, and you can toggle through different views here. We have draft journeys, live journeys, and stop journeys, for example. We'll create a new real-time journey. When you click New Journey, you'll be prompted to indicate if this will be a trigger-based or segment-based journey. If you're used to outbound marketing, this does look a little different, but segments are how many of your outbound marketing journeys are set up. We do have some differences here, though. We can choose a segment, which I will do. And then we can also choose the frequency and the time zone and a start date. So your frequencies can be a one-time journey with a static audience, one time where newly added audience members start at any time, and a repeating journey where all audience members repeat the journey at set intervals. So we can do something like every week. This is particularly good for situations like rolling yearly events that your audience needs to be alerted to at customer-specific times, like renewal information for customers on yearly subscriptions, for example. Now, if you choose trigger-based, you'll have to indicate the trigger that will prompt the journey to start. We are going to talk more about the ins and outs of triggers in a minute, but for now, just conceptualize them as particular attributes of a customer that sets them on the journey, or actions the customer takes which will set them on the journey. So let's create an abandoned cart journey, and I'll title it that. When someone adds products to their cart but leaves the site before completing the purchase, that's what will set off the journey, and we'll begin there. Click Create. And here is the beginning of our journey. We can actually start adding elements to the journey itself. And you see here that we have actions and we have other elements. For actions, we can do things like send an email, which we have seen in outbound marketing. And we can also do other things like send a text message and send a push notification and send other types of messages that we can set up. And we have other elements that we can add to the journey as well. We can respond to an action. This is an if-then branch that you're used to from outbound. We can branch the journey based on a specific value or attribute. of your segments and contacts. So for the abandoned cart, if the contact has purchased from you before or not, could be an attribute you choose to branch. So you can customize your abandoned cart message for both new and returning customers. For this next one, we did have an entire fast class on A/B testing, which helps us use two versions of the same sort of message to see which is most effective. In outbound, this usually means changing design or content of an email. But here we might choose to test text or an email, which is more effective for that particular communication. That's what we could use this A/B test for. We can send messages through the channel that we have identified each contact to prefer, which we can set up in the contact card. So maybe a contact prefers emails only, or maybe they never check their email and the only way to get a hold of them is via text. If we know that information, we can make sure we approach each customer via their ideal channel, and that's how we're going to do it with this button here. Next up, we can hold an action for a specific time. This is familiar probably from outbound again, if we want to wait a week for the next communication in the journey to go out, or if we want to wait until a certain date, or if we want to wait until the person triggers next step, that's where we're going to do it. And finally, we can activate a custom trigger or a Power Automate flow. This is one of the really unique and cool elements of real-time marketing that gives you so much flexibility to do a ton of things from a journey. This is a moment in the system, however, you will probably need a developer to help you out. But for example, just to see, what we can do, an example might be if a customer voice survey is submitted, it will trigger a Power Automate flow that will send an email with the details of the response to a team member. So that they have that information and they instantly know that was filled out. So each of these options will open a custom tab on the right to help you set up details of that action or element, and that's over here. So you notice that the actual process of building a real-time journey is similar to journeys we've used in outbound marketing. Though it looks a little different and includes different actions and other elements, it's super recognizable as a journey like we're used to. Let's continue to check out these tabs over here. We can set criteria to the abandoned cart, exclude certain segments that won't be alerted in the case of an abandoned cart, and we can set repetition rules to determine how often a contact can be put through the journey. For instance, maybe no matter how many times a contact enters their abandoned cart in a given week, they will only receive abandoned cart messages one time per week. Over here, we have a few other tabs. We can set default and alternative exits for the journey, which can be another trigger based on the segment the member is in, or you can set the exit to be that they complete the journey steps and are therefore done with the flow. Next, we can track the goal we want the journey to achieve. Do we want to do something like drive a purchase, engage customers, increase loyalty? We can also set a custom goal as well. And the last tab here is other settings. So this is where we can set a frequency cap to the journey if we have one set up in marketing, and to not overwhelm your audience with too much communication at one time. Especially if we have other journeys going on, we don't want to flood your audience's inbox with our messages lest we irritate them and they disengage from us altogether. So that's the real value of a frequency cap, to make sure that we're not just overloading our clients and our audience. Note that you'll need to have all your content, whether it's an email, text message, or push notification, ready to go by the time your journey goes live, since you still won't be able to edit or add steps once the journey starts. This is exactly the same as in outbound marketing. And to send a push notification, you'll have an application linked to your Dynamics 365 marketing account. But we'll touch more on push notifications in the second part of the fast class, so stay tuned for that later. Lastly, business triggers relate to changes made in your own Dynamics 365 systems like sales or customer service. They will be things like changing a contact record or creating new leads. A lot of these triggers come out of the box, like when a contact lead or opportunity are created, when a contact phone number is updated, when a contact texts into a marketing event or registration, or when a marketing form is submitted. I want to go over a few triggers that might be particularly useful based on what we just touched on in the customer journeys tab. So first is abandoned cart. If you remember, I used this abandoned cart trigger in the customer journey that I created a few minutes ago. So we already have an idea of a way to use this trigger. But when I click into this trigger, you'll notice a few boxes on screen here. Here I have the option to grab the code snippet and send it to a developer. Since I can see that it says integration a few times here on the screen, I can assume that this is going to use this code to intertwine a few different spots within the system. Notice over here also that we can see where you've used the trigger, and in this instance, I haven't used it yet. But if I were to have used it, it would be a hyperlink and I could just click on it and it would bring me directly to that journey. All right, let's head back. The next trigger I want to look at right now is email opened. So if I want to, I can always search for something here, email opened, and it'll pop open. This trigger is going to move a customer along to the next step of the journey once they open the email that I sent. And this is a really versatile trigger because it helps me curate different approaches to those people who do and do not open an email. We'll search again, this one for marketing form submitted. Here we go. This trigger will move contacts through to the next step of the journey when they submit a real-time marketing form. Since there are lots of different ways contacts can interact with or similarly completely ignore forms, this could be one spot where your journey branches, where contacts who submit a form go down one path and contacts who view but ignore the form go down a completely separate path in the journey. And let's look up one more. Let's do text, message bounced. Here we go. So whether you're texting a friend or sending a text blast as part of a marketing campaign, you always want to make sure your messages are actually going through. And this trigger will notify you if a text message in a customer journey bounces for any reason. This could prompt you to clean up your segment, remove inactive members, or check to see if a number was added incorrectly to your contact. So if you don't see what you need here, we can always create our own triggers. If we click new trigger up here, we can go ahead and title it and then select if it'll be a trigger activated when a record related to a customer is created or updated, or if it'll activate when a customer interacts with a website or app linked to Dynamics 365 marketing. Both of these options create your own trigger. It's a bit complicated, and triggers linked to a website or app require a developer to make sure the code integrates correctly. But for the sake of this fast class, we're just going to keep it simple. But if you do want to talk about creating custom triggers in CRM, reach out to your lead consultant here at Syvantis, and we're more than happy to help you with that. The last area under engagement is the analytics feature. And I'll show you a different environment here because this demo hasn't quite finished loading analytics yet. But here is our other environment for us to just see. And we don't have journeys in here either, but you can see the tiles and really just the influx of information, great information that we can actually have available to us. So as you can see here, this dashboard pulls from Power BI and it gets refreshed every few hours. You can click into each separate tile and you can actually do things like drill down, and you can filter in order to see really granular elements and really focus into specific data and analytics. The Journeys tab up here shows you aggregated data across multiple real-time customer journeys. And the Channels tab will show you the aggregated data across different channels you have linked to Dynamics 365. Things like email, text, and push notification, delivery success rates, delivery issues, unsubscribes, and so on. That's all going to show up here. This is another built-in tool to help you look at data within Dynamics 365 marketing so you can continue to make data-informed decisions about your marketing campaigns. Let's move on to the audience area of real-time marketing, and it's located right under the engagement tab. So let's go there now. Let's start out with contacts. The contacts area will pull in the same contacts from outbound marketing. Since this is part of your CRM database, it's not unique to real-time marketing specifically. This way, you can see your existing contacts in your real-time marketing efforts as well. This is important to note that you can configure real-time journey audiences to contact, lead, and customer profile entities, which will allow you to use emails, text messages, and push notifications, whichever touch point makes the most sense for your audience type. Let's move on to segments. This also pulls in from outbound marketing. So you can use the segments that you would use in outbound as well. But let's make a new segment so that we can see what capabilities we have here. I'll start by typing in a name for this segment. I want to create a segment for leads that come in through an external referral. So we'll title it 2022 Qualified Leads. And we're going to set our audience type to lead. And we will set a description for external referrals. On this segment builder, you notice this panel here in the right side. Within the panel, we have two tabs. We have attributes and we have leads. Here we have the Elements tab open, but we can also use Query Assist, which is going to do a plain language search and generate a list of leads that way. Or we can use one of the suggestions here in the dropdown. So we can choose like women born in July or leads who prefer to get emails, for example. The last tab in this panel is Settings, where I can set up how often I'd like a segment to refresh and pull in new leads, essentially the difference between dynamic or static segments. I'm going to go back to the Elements tab here and look through some of the different pieces. To use different attributes, I'll click through these different tabs here and add elements to the builder. You can also use the search function to quickly find what you're looking for. So since I want to create a segment of leads that were generated from external referrals, I'm going to search for lead source. And we have it here in the lead dropdown, and we'll go ahead and select that. From here, I can add a subgroup if I want to the attribute. So what I'm going to do is the lead source is external referral. We can go ahead and add a subgroup, and I'll search for created. Under the lead, and I'll find created on, and I will add that to the existing group. And you can see here we have group 1 or group 1.1. We want to put it here in group 1.1. And I will go ahead and narrow down the dates, the last year, so January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2022. This way, my segment will generate a list of leads created last year via external referral. And just as a clarifier here, created between is the qualifier that I'll use here, as opposed to is or is before, which just helps us narrow down or really identify what time frame we're working within. As you can see, there are a lot of different fields and queries that you can use to narrow down your segment. So definitely take your time and look at all the options you have to personalize your segments. Really quickly, I want to mention the Leads tab right here. And this is a tab area that lets you add inclusion and exclusion groups, and it'll let me sort through an actual list of leads, or I can search for specific records here that I know who I want to specifically include or exclude. Once I'm done creating my segment, I can click Ready to Use, and that will publish it, and then we can start using it within a journey. So let's move on to the Consent Center. If your contacts have allowed you to send them marketing materials based on a field in the contact record to allow bulk emails, if it's marked allow, then they have opted into receiving marketing materials. And if it's marked don't allow, they have opted out of your marketing emails, text, and push notifications. When working in real-time marketing, we'll be able to manage the consent given by our contacts. When you first install real-time marketing, your consent setter will not contain any records, no matter how many contacts you have in your database and in the outbound marketing area. But there are a few ways that you can gather consent from existing records. So first, you can manually pull in consent records for emails and text messages. You'll select either email consent or phone consent from the top bar. And then you can select to fill in their email address, and then you can change the consents to allow email, to allow tracking, either granting or revoking the consents, and if needed, who requested the change and the reason for the change. There's also the option to create custom consent records. That's right up here, which has the same setup questions as adding an email and text message consent. The second way you can gather consent records is by importing settings from an Excel file. Select Import from Excel, and then you can upload the file. You can also import a CSV and an XML file as well. The third way is to load the consent from the records already stored in your Dynamics 365 marketing contacts. You'll want to note that this only loads in contact records used in the outbound marketing area of D365. Only one email address per contact will be brought in, and the allow bulk email field is the only relevant field here. Consent is stored per email address or per phone number, as opposed to strictly being related to one contact record, although consent will be indicated by a field within the contact record itself. One other important thing to note is that contacts must have opted in to receiving your email marketing materials to be sent messaging in real-time marketing. But there's one type of email that circumvents that requirement, and those are going to be transactional emails or things that your clients must absolutely be notified of, like purchase receipts. But we'll touch more on those types of emails in the second part of this fast pass. And with that, we've looked through 2 of the 4 tabs in the left-hand navigation of real-time marketing. Next time, we'll revisit the real-time marketing area. We're going to cover channels, and we're going to cover assets as well. Thanks for joining us today, and we hope to see you next week when we will return to the current Business Central series, which is all about inventory best practices. And at that time, we're going to discuss units of measure. So thanks so much, and see you next time.